only have 2 weeks to get this dress done. So I've literally just made a mistake. I'm not happy with the shaping of that one. Absolute mess. This is my attempt at making my daughter's second birthday dress. Last year I made her a ruffly pink crinkly number that had self-covered buttons and rouleau button loops at the back with little embroidery along the neckline that said her name. I did little puff sleeves that were tiny versions of my Hera sleeve, and I just loved it. The whole process was actually really emotional. Like, I found myself getting quite sentimental and just in awe of the fact that women have done this for centuries. So that's brought me to now her second birthday dress, which I'm really excited to try out something a little bit different. Now, I've been wanting to do smocking for a really long time, and I finally found a Sally smocking pleating machine on Marketplace for an absolute steal. So I was like, I have to get this. So here it is. It is in amazing condition. Like, genuinely, I don't think this lady kind of knew what kind of gem she had on her. I don't know, she didn't know how to use it or anything like that. I think she must have inherited it from someone. It almost seems like it hasn't been used. It's come with its own patterns for little dresses, and they haven't been used either. So that's pretty incredible. Now, my amazing mother-in-law has trialed this and kind of given me all the hot tips, threaded it for me, gotten all the bobbins ready, which is amazing. I really appreciate that. Now we'll have a look at the machine, and then I've got some inspiration images of smocking designs that I really like. I'll show you the fabric that I got as well, and then the color of the embroidery thread, and then we're going to design it together. Let's do it. Okay, so this is what it all looks like. My mother-in-law has pre-threaded the bobbins. We've got threader here, all the needles that came with it are in here. Came with a whole bunch of patterns for some girls' dresses, which is so handy. This is the Sally Stanley smocking pleater. She looks like. Genuinely, I don't think this lady on Facebook knew what she had, because I only got this for like $80 Australian. It's very heavy. Like, it's in perfect condition. And my mother-in-law has already put 6 needles in there, because I think really for the yoke, it's only going to need 6. She also gave me this little roll so we can pre-roll the fabric onto here, place it in here, and then as we do it, we kind of can roll it at the same time. So the fabric stays nice and even, and the grain line stays nice and even too. Now, in terms of fabric, I was lucky enough that Tessuti Fabrics gifted me some of their really beautiful linen for this project, and it's just the most beautiful color. So my daughter has beautiful blue eyes, and this is just going to be the most perfect color on her. Isn't it beautiful? It's like it's almost like a lilac more than a blue. This is the type of blue that I really love. I don't really like blue that much, but this tone, like this specific shade of like lilac blue, is just absolutely stunning, and it's going to look incredible on her. I'm excited to make it in this. I spoke to Anna at the Tessuti Melbourne City store, and she was incredible, like knew so much about smocking and pleating. As soon as I went in, I was talking about potentially getting a Liberty fabric because I like the idea of a little mini floral, but she was mentioning how Liberty, because it is quite thin, it can take a lot more pleats to actually get the effect, and you can kind of lose the effect as well because it's almost too thin. So she mentioned that this kind of mid-weight linen is perfect. So I'll drop the link for this fabric in the description box below, because then you know that it's actually going to work. After I went to Tessuti, I went and got some coloured embroidery thread from Morris & Sons. They're like a knitting crochet kind of store, but they've got really beautiful coloured embroidery thread as well. These are the colours I ended up choosing for the embroidery top stitching over the top of the smocking. I think it's just going to be a really beautiful colour combination. Let's look at some inspiration and let's design. Here are some of my favourite designs on Pinterest. I just like cannot get over this. I really love the whole idea of the bishop style. I thought these were so beautiful as well. Scalloped idea around the neckline. I feel like that could be really pretty, just to kind of give it a bit of softness. threader here and all my 6 bobbins just up here. Now that I've threaded the machine and I've got all the bobbins sitting pretty well in this little box here, I'm going to cut a little bit of the actual fabric and evenly wind it around the dowel, slide it through and see how we go. Wish me luck. Get off the bad one. Better. I'm going to be threading it through in behind here, first big cog. Off the bad ones. I remember when turning this forward, so I'm turning this. It's kind of like. Wow, just beautiful in this color too. I'm finding with the pleats that now that I've pulled them off, they're not all staying nice and tight together. So what I've read is to kind of pin them up together and use steam to kind of semi-set the pleats in the linen, because the steam is going to relax those linen fibers into like kind of staying where they are while they're nice and warm and malleable, and then once they cool down they'll kind of stay hopefully together in a nice even way. So I'm going to try that now using pins to kind of keep it all secure, and then maybe I'll tie off the knots so then they actually do stay nice together. This pattern making awl kind of comes in handy too, so you can kind of push the gaps down into the crevice, so then they kind of go into a line. You can kind of follow the line at the top and just drag it down, and that tucks that fabric in. But my love's on purpose, reciprocate the feeling, find peace beneath the surface. Everything's peaceful. So here's my little mood board. I've got my inspiration images, I've got the dress design, I've got fabric, got my smocking test. I'm ready to go. Now that I've got my design and I've got my trial sharing piece, all my inspiration images, my embroidery color threads, I can actually try and sit now and figure out what this pattern is going to look like. Now I have a feeling with bishop style, which is this, it's just going to be a long piece of fabric. You send it through the smocking pleater and say it becomes perhaps this size. You've got all your pleats here. Then you can get it and pin it on, maybe I can do it on my ironing board. And so what you do is you can move it into a circular motion shape like this. So that will be essentially the neckline here. So you pin it, and that's where the pleating is the tightest. And then as you go, you kind of loosen the pleating around, so it creates more of a circular shape as it goes out. So then it'll be coming out like this. Pleating around your neckline. It's super tight around here, and it gradually gets looser and looser as it goes out, so you can actually create this kind of circular shape. Now I'm going to be doing the kind of scalloped look here anyway. Then it's a matter of, that's your center back seam. You want to have your side seams around here and obviously your armholes. Now it's about, what does that look like? Is it cutting out this piece and like that, so when you close that up, it creates a bit of an armhole? Is it doing it like this? And you close that up, you sew this together, create your side seam, and you pinch that together, and then you can bind off the armhole, bias binding. That way you don't have to do the actual separate raglan seam and sleeves and then put the raglan through, because then did it like that, it would have the raglan here and here and here, and you'd have to put it through the machine. I've heard that that can be quite difficult. Maybe I should trial it as like a mini version of what this would look like and see, is it cutting it up in a rectangle? Is it cutting it up in like a kind of reverse triangle? We'll have a look at what that looks like. Now it's figuring out, how do I get sleeve section here and then I think it's literally going to be cutting out that space. So let's try that. Side out again. It's so easy. And once you add that kind of gathered panel along there, that'd be perfect. So I couldn't help but making like a little gathered panel just to see an idea of what it would look like. That's super cute. Based on the shape of this rectangle and what we're going to be looking at for the actual dress shape, so you can kind of see here, this will be the front, these will be the armholes, these will come together to be the side seams, and this will go around to the back to make the center back seam. It looks somewhat like this. I've realized too that maybe in this side seam here, I could actually make more of a triangle cutout instead of a full kind of rectangular cutout. So then you're getting more of that A-line shape in the dress. So I think it's going to look more like this. So that'll be a center front line. That'll be armhole, side seams, which will be on an angle, center back seam, and then all the pleating will be along the front here. And it'll just be a matter of tightening it in a certain way that actually creates that curve. And I'll have the shoulder notches there. And there'll be the gathered here along the bottom of the dress. Just repeated that on the other side. So that's kind of like what my pattern plan is. Now I need to go and iron my linen and making paper. I've got some Vilene, which is just like a very light interfacing, which is what I usually use. Figure out the length that I want it to be, and then the panel on the bottom, and let's start smocking. This is the sleeve. Originally I was going to do it all in one piece so I didn't have to pleat through any seams, but I think to get the fullness in the sleeve, there's not much flutter in it. Like I want it to be quite up and voluminous. And so what I've done, separated out the sleeve, so this is where the pleating is going to be. And this was the bottom piece of the kind of sleeve, which I wanted it to be out more. So what I've done is originally it looked like this. It was kind of like quite narrow coming down. So what I've done is the slash and open method. I've created evenly spaced lines and essentially slashed and opened it. So it will be a lot more flouncy. So the pattern pieces have gone from looking like this, like an all-in-one piece, to this. So this means that I'm going to get a lot more flounce in the sleeve here, a raglan seam on the front and the back, just going to be a little bit more elevated, having the separate pieces, and a bit more full in the sleeve where we want it to be. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pleat these pieces individually, so then I can take the threads kind of away from the side seams, then create the French seam from that. Assemble it all together with the French seams, and then pull in the smocking pleats tighter and tighter to create the whole shape. I've got my bias binding pieces, which I'll make up. I've got my sleeve pieces, my front piece, my two back pieces here, and then these are the bands for the bottom gathered here. So let's start pleating. So you can see here, this is my sleeve pattern. This is the top of the sleeve, this is the bottom of the sleeve, and it's got a kind of angled notch kind of seam. So when you're putting it through pleater, you need to make sure that you put through the closest point first. Otherwise, it's going to kind of fold in on itself and probably get jammed. I would be putting through this point first before lining it up. And you got to make sure too that your first needle here is lining up where you want it to be, leaving a little bit of kind of seam allowance on that end. This is just a pattern making awl. You can use it just to kind of lift your fabric up, get it through to feed into the cogs. Then you can go from there. You see how this bit's coming out first? That's what you want it to do. So the grain line is correct, and that way you don't get any jam. I use a bit of sticky tape just to secure it to the dowel. Before we start all the smocking and the pleating and stuff like that, we need to create our seam allowance so we can actually attach all the pieces together using a French seam. So we don't want to be stitching over the top of the holding stitch, so we need to actually take out a couple just gently. We're not snipping the thread or breaking the thread, we're just gently pulling it through. We want to probably take out 3, and you can hold it on that side so it doesn't pull through too far. Okay, so I've literally just made a mistake that I was telling you not to do, which is one of the threads has kind of like pulled through from the other side and popped out of the pleats. So it's only halfway through now. So what I'm going to just carefully do is grab a hand sewing needle, thread it on, and just very gently go back through all of the holes that were created before and get it straight back through before I lose it. See here, this one's popped out, so it's missing from along here. I'm quickly going to grab that and thread it back through with a needle. Crisis averted. So that's something to really keep in mind, is when you are pulling those threads through, you do press down on the stitch next to it and pull it out that way to make sure it's coming from the thread on the side that it needs to come out of, not pulling back out through the other pleats in the rest of the pleating. So there you go. Now that I've taken out the threads, I'm going to start putting the dress together, creating the French seams. Then after that, I'll pin it to my ironing board and start moving the pleating. What I'm doing here is I'm going to measure my original sample and see how much the measurements are for each particular area. So then I can replicate it on my final garment to be kind of matching the same measurement, so then it's going to fit the same way.
When you press me to your from above, everyday void seems turning into love song.
Now that I've finished the kind of top edge of stitching, the little diamond points here, and then the bottom row of stitching underneath them, what I'm going to do to save time is create the scalloping stitch around the bottom. I'm not going to do this middle scallop stitch. I'm going to do just the bigger one because it is actually a lot smaller than this. And then once I've created that bottom stitch along here, that means all of the pleats have been secured. And so I can finish the dress and then do the last of the floral embroidery just at home at night because time's kind of running out. So I'm going to do the bottom scalloping stitch and then release all of the holding threads because then that means everything's kind of secured. I'm also going to use some little bulb shaped pins just to kind of mark the apex point and the rounded part of each scallop, so then I know that it's even all the way around. I'm happy with the shaping of these ones. That's definitely too pointy. I'm not happy with the shaping of this one. Like that side's okay, but I need to round this off a bit more and I want to completely redo this one. So I'm just going to undo these two and fix that. Not happy with how that's sitting. So now I'm going to take out the threads, holding threads, so then this here won't be pleated. So you can see how once I've taken the threads out, it's actually quite stretchy because the way the threads are done, they're kind of like looped over and over and over. So it actually allows for a little bit of stretch. Last session, I find I always get to a point in a project where it's just an absolute mess and I've stopped caring and I'm so like honed in on just finishing the garment. So this session is finalizing the back neck closure, doing some self-covered buttons, hand stitching all of that, and then finishing all of the embroidery. I think I want to add a few more little details, so wish me luck.